Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones came out in 2002. The
Just the
IMDb.
master, basically. The same.
Exactly. The IMDb plot summary there. 10 years after initially meeting, Anakin Skywalker shares a forbidden romance with Padme Amidala, while Obi-Wan Kenobi investigates an assassination attempt on the senator and discovers a secret clone army crafted by the Jedi. So obviously, Star Wars film, part of the prequel trilogy, directed by George Lucas. And I put this movie on the list for the reason that it, for me, really for the first time encapsulated this feeling of a film community where the movie theater was like a destination in a sense of like a church for people that loved movies. So for this film, I huge Star Wars fan my entire life. I'd seen episode 1 opening night. But I think it's like a 7 p.m. show. And since that point, I had then discovered going to midnight shows. So I've been going to midnight shows for a couple years before seeing Attack of the Clones. And for this movie, because it was so hyped, not only did I see it at midnight, but me and my close friends in college actually camped out in front of the theater for about 2 nights because we wanted to get good seats. So this is before assigned seats. So, you couldn't book your tickets, in advance. You get the tickets online, but you couldn't book your seats in advance. I mean, we wanted good seats. It's a Star Wars movie. So we went down to the Irvine Spectrum, which is a theater down in Orange County, and then basically pitched a tent in front of the theater and camped there for 2 nights to make sure we got good seats. But we were there in this line with maybe like 50, 60 other people, every day kind of growing. And it was great. Like people set up TVs, watching Star Wars, computers, playing Star Wars video games. We were all like, we met people, we're talking about things, doing like Star Wars trivia. It was really like this whole sense of, these are all the Star Wars fans now gathered in one place in front of this theater. And then everyone, talking about what was exciting about them in this movie, speculating fan theories, all this stuff. It was like an internet message board in real life, basically. And then everyone kind of going into the theater, obviously, enjoying the film because it's Star Wars and we're there, people jumping up and clapping in the theater and standing up and things like that. And then afterwards, all the dialogue, of people, talking about what they thought about the film would immediately happen. But it was really this first time, like, wow, there really is this big community here. Yes, it's around Star Wars, which is not just about film, but this IP, but it was really the sense of, this is a place, a theater that is the gathering point for all these people that really love this particular film franchise. And then without the theater, all these things could still happen online. Again, like there'd be message boards or chat rooms. You watch like YouTube reviews or go on Twitter or something. But having a physical destination that everyone can flock to, only, Star Wars movies are rare as well. It's like one every, 3 years back then. And then 10 years, every trilogy and things. So it's a rare opportunity. Just seeing all these fans and meeting all these people and the shared love of going to the movies was something that still is special to me. And that's one of the reasons why I love going to midnight shows, did for a long time. Now it's like, I'm older, so not midnight, but, opening night for like the Marvel film or these IP franchises that I really like, because it is that sense of everyone kind of getting together in their church of worship for whether it's Marvel or Star Wars or whatever the IP is. It's being part of that community is something that's very, very special that, I really feel is important to me in terms of what that theatrical experience is like. And it's something I'll never forget either. It's crazy. Looking back on it, it's kind of crazy that I did that. But, you're in college, you got time. Why not set up a tent and camp out in front of a movie theater?
No, I mean, it sounds super, super fun. What are your thoughts on the movie? And especially when you watched it that first time.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you watched it since. And is it the same, or did you love the movie when you watched it?
That's a great
deliver, after this hype and 2-day marathon that you had leading up to it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So at the time, so I saw it at midnight and then went back the next morning and saw it at 10:30 in the morning at the same theater, and then saw it again, I believe, like 2 or 3 days later. I think in total, I saw it about 5 times in the theater, and I loved it. I actually too, I filmed a documentary about my friends and I anticipating this movie. So it was over like 30 days. And afterwards, I can go back and watch like my review of the film, be like, oh my God, it's so much better than episode one. And all these things have been loved. And oh my God, oh my God. Now, in my opinion, it's the weakest of the 6 Star Wars movies that George Lucas made. Like, I still like parts of it, but all the flaws have kind of come out to me now. And actually, I think the first episode one, Phantom Menace, is a much better film and ages a lot better than this one did. So it definitely was like in the moment, you have this feeling because of, you want to like the movie. It's there. You have everyone cheering and getting up when Yoda pulls out his lightsaber for the first time and people didn't expect that and, all that stuff. So there definitely was a of the moment thing, like a halo effect from that first screening that definitely, after then seeing it, many years later, I've seen the movie like dozens and dozens of times now on video, but it's not necessarily that and maybe like the video experience too, like makes the flaws stand out a little bit more because I'm not going to defend this as a good work of art or even like one of the better Star Wars films. So definitely like the experience does, did color my opinion of the film for a while, though now I can kind of look back and say, no, it's the weakest of the 6, but there's still some amazing moments that I remember seeing, for the first time in the theater. So definitely there is that experience. If I saw it on DVD, I'd probably be like, I don't know, this isn't as good as I might have expected. So definitely it was interesting kind of going back and seeing my opinions there and how much they've changed.
All I'm thinking of is if I could somehow be transported back in time and meet you and the gang at this tent the night before, what would that be like?
Maybe you were one of those, because we were getting like, I don't want to say like teased, but like we're in a mall. So like there are all these people like going out to CPK and then they'd be like, what are you guys doing? And we'd be like, yeah, we're standing in line for Star Wars. They're like, oh, okay. Like they'd be like, you guys are just stupid, which was fun too. But yeah, you might have been this people being like,
been in that gap.
Yeah, getting your CPK takeout. Yeah, CPK. Being like, what are you like? Really, you guys are doing this for a movie? Like ridiculous. Yeah.
In some ways, I'm jealous though, because who knows? Maybe this will happen someday, but I don't see myself doing that ever. I haven't done that ever for any movie. Like I want to see it, but I'll wait for it. I'll sort of figure out a way to kind of go see it. And I also, in many ways, like watching movies alone in the third row where there aren't that many people. So, and they're there in the background just to make me feel like I am watching with a bunch of people, but they're not with me. But I think it also comes down to the kind of movie, like, you and I, and you've been so great at orchestrating, communal movie going experiences, especially with the MCU movies. And I can say this for sure, that those movies would not mean anything to me if I had not seen them with you and the gang. Like watching these movies and appreciating them, especially as a non-fan of any of the IP that's out there pretty much, it has to do with the communal experience, 100%. So going back to this movie, I had never seen it before. I watched it this week, and I'm sorry to say I could not make it past the 45-minute mark.
What part of the film is that? I'm just curious on where you made it. Was it the cloning facility? Did you make it to the cloning, like the rain planet Camino, when like there was all the rain and okay. I'm trying to think of, that's probably around the 40-minute mark when Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, that's the weaker part of the film. The third act, the last reel is amazing. So if anything, maybe you should have just skipped ahead and just watched there's a huge action scene at the end that kind of saves the film. That was the only part that I can kind of look back now and be like, that's good. The rest of it, a lot of problems. So I'm not surprised, especially as someone who's not a big fan of Star Wars to begin with necessarily. This would be not the film that I'd recommend anyone watch.
Probably not. And I knew that going in.
Totally. Right.
But yeah, maybe I'll go back and watch the last part. But, having said that, there aren't even the MCU movies, and I'm sure you will agree with this, cannot be compared to the Star Wars legacy.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a reason, even I as a non-fan can see that, what these movies were, what they've created over a period of time. Once again, is the mise-en-scène, the characters, the journey, the myth surrounding it all. In many ways, you tell me, but it seems to me everything we know about fandom comes from here in our modern world. it sort of created this whole phenomenon, really, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think the difference, one of the main differences just with Star Wars is it is an auteur's vision of one particular artist expressing his art versus an IP that other artists can interpret in different ways and more of a business. I mean, George was never, obviously he lucked into being a billionaire because of this, but it wasn't anything where he was setting out to sort of artificially create some, franchise that can sell McDonald's toys. Like, this was his artistic expression of his worldview. And I think that's why those first 6 movies are very special. And you can see the difference when the corporation takes over, which is Disney, and what they were now thinking about what were the McDonald's meals we can create. And it's much more of a business decision, and the art has been stripped out of it. And that's why those movies aren't as good, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.